Good morning, everyone, and thank you for watching. We have an exciting agenda for you today, so you keep tuned. And welcome to CDBG. And with that, if we can have roll call.
Committee members: Markarian, absent. Oganessian is absent. Olivares?
Here.
Sinania?
Present.
Chair Cornell.
Yes.
At B, report of recording secretary, posting of the agenda. The agenda for the February 15, 2013 meeting of the CDBG Advisory Committee was posted on Tuesday, February 12, 2013 on the bulletin board outside City Hall. Item 2, minutes. At A, review of the minutes of the CDBG Advisory Committee meetings held on October 16, 2012, December 10, 2012, and January 14, 2013.
Okay.
Excuse me. Remind me. Was I? We went through this last time. I think I missed one of the meetings. So I don't know if we have a quorum to approve them. Do we?
I do. Well, we do, don't we?
Do you have what meeting it is? Because it's important, since there's only 3 of us here, to be able to approve these minutes here for the October 16th, December 10th, and January 14th.
Unfortunately, and I apologize, I don't have the attendance sheet with me. If you would prefer, we could hold off on this item. I will run downstairs and later on and get that for you. We could determine who was here at each meeting.
Or we can put it up to the next meeting, next Wednesday.
So
We could do that as well.
Mr. Curl, the chair is open, so we can approve these, and then if there's a discrepancy, then come back. Is that pretty much what you're saying?
Mr. Chair, I believe we would have to wait. My recollection is that Mr. Olivares was not here on December 10th. That's the day we reviewed the home amendment project. So the committee could not make a vote at this point without a quorum. So we can table this to the next meeting.
We can table this to the 19th then?
Next Tuesday.
Okay. So move that we will table this, the minutes, to our meeting of February 19th. Okay. On the reports?
Item 3, reports. At A, receive report regarding second quarter social service performance reports and expenditure rates.
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, we had emailed you a copy of the social service program's mid-year performance and expenditure rate report. This is sometimes used during your deliberations for reviewing who is, certainly performing and expending the funds. If you don't have a copy, we can make certainly some extra copies for you to look for it this afternoon. But I wanted to just mention most agencies are around 50% of their expenditure and 50% of their goals. Some again start a little slower, so they're not always necessarily at 50%. We haven't had any agency that is pending any return of funds at this point. We may have programs that are still working on their numbers and so on, but at this point we don't have anything yet that would signify a lower expenditure rate. We do have some programs that are pending invoices to be paid. We do have an agency that's certainly working on some expenditures that they need to make beginning this next quarter. That's a city program. But all in all, it seems that the programs are moving along, and we don't have any significant issues right now at this point.
Any follow-up comments? Okay. And on item B?
Item B, receive report on status of federal budget and revised fiscal year 2013-14 CDBG funding allocation plan by funding category.
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, we do have a revised preliminary CDBG funding allocation plan, which we have put on your desk. The correction we have is that we actually have some good news. We completed our annual reconciliation of our accounts for the CDBG program that includes closing out any projects that had some remaining funds, reconciling our accounts with the cities and our HUD system, and we were able to close out and have fund balance of about $90,000 that we were receiving, and we are proposing that that be added to the allocations for capital improvement programs for the nonprofits, being that the committee certainly had a very high concern to provide funding for the facility improvement projects for nonprofits. So we added $90,000. The amount available now for the capital improvement projects for nonprofits is $300,000 versus the $210,000. So certainly that would assist with some assistance for the improvement projects on Tuesday. But other than that, that's essentially it. There's one other change, though, and you'll know about this more on Tuesday. We actually had a pre-designated project that changed in site location. That's Palmer Pacific Playground Improvement Project. It was originally designated by the committee and approved by the City Council that funds would go to the Palmer Maple Park improvement project. But after our park staff did some more reviews and some more analysis, we found out that Pacific Park actually has a higher need for the playground improvement projects. Result of the swimming pool coming in, and we had to make adjustments. We need to make some more improvements towards the playground area for Pacific Park. So we've made it a change there from Palmer Maple to Palmer Pacific Playground Improvement Projects. The funding amount remains the same. It's just at one different site location. Those are the only two changes.
So just to clarify, the extra $90,000 that we have in the amended allocation plan, the extra $90,000 is for capital improvement projects, not social services?
Correct. Yes, that's for social services. We cannot put that in the, I'm sorry, for capital, we cannot put that in social services.
Okay.
I have to question. Why did it, who gets to make the decision about changing the location? I understand it's a pre-designated project, but it was location specific. So what I would not like to see, and I want to make sure we're clear on this, at least I am, is that we're not throwing money into a pre-designated department as opposed to a pre-designated project. So when you start changing locations without going through what I see as the cycle of going through the CDBG and the council and approving the changes, I don't want it to appear to the public like it's a pool of money that the Parks Department or whatever department it is just moving around where they need to. I'm not questioning the use, but I'm questioning the process. And so something I think we need to talk, it should be an agenda item that we discuss specifically sometime short in the future.
I remember that we discussed this at great length, and we had a discussion on this, and I think if the records show and the minutes show that I had recommended or suggested that in order to be able to have better transparency on this, that we have a joint meeting comparable as to what's being done with the Housing Authority and the council. And that idea is still on the table, so perhaps we can expand on that, but there should be more constructive dialogue on this, because every time this comes up and we go through what we're doing at this time, it always comes back to haunt us here, where if we had better insight and planning and work with the council better on this, that could be pretty much, amended to everyone's concern. So that's a topic that we need to put forth with management to discuss this and see if we can move forward. If this is a good recommendation and there's consensus on it, perhaps move forward and have and have staff initiate that then.
I don't think it's something we want to talk about at the next meeting, but maybe the following one. Don't have the time to.
Mr. Duran?
Yes, Mr. Chair, if I can expand on the playground improvement project. In essence, the pre-designated amount was to fund 2 playground improvement projects in southern Glendale parks, because as you know, southern Glendale is the CDBG eligible target area in the city of Glendale. And per discussions we had with the council, and I think a couple of you were at that meeting, because there was some discussion about the idea of pre-designating funds for city projects at the expense of fewer funds available to the community. And so what we talked about is that Palmer Park was most definitely our highest priority for playground replacement. And at the time, we also had needs at Maple Park and at Pacific Park. And as we went back and looked at Maple Park and Pacific Park, we determined that between those 2 parks, Pacific was actually the higher priority than Maple. So we made an administrative decision to substitute Maple for Pacific, believing that we were still consistent with the direction and generally what was being proposed, which was pre-designating funds to be able to fund 2 playground improvement projects, whether it was Pacific or Maple. So it was an administrative decision that we made as staff, determining what was our higher priority for the second project besides Palmer. So that's how that decision process went and how that evolved. When we make our report to the City Council on the proposed funding recommendations, we will, we can talk about those priorities with the Council again. So I don't know if that helps or not.
Okay.
I still would like to suggest that we talk about this in more in depth. Yeah.
Of course.
Item number C.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I'm just going to add one more thing to our discussion.
I also have something. If, Mr. Chair, if I may go back to the preliminary proposed funding allocation plan, what we're talking about is under the unappropriated fund balance row. Last time you saw this proposed funding allocation plan, the estimate for 13-14 was $25,000. As a result of reconciling our accounting with HUD's, that unappropriated fund balance is now $115,000. So it's a difference of $90,000, as Mr. Carrillo pointed out, which is $90,000 more that we will make available to the community for capital improvement projects.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, just want to add one more last item. We, and under the status of the federal budget, and you probably know that we've had, certainly in the federal level, a number of discussions on the fiscal cliff and the debt ceiling and the sequester, which is a mandatory funding cut to all federal and defense programs. And if you've heard the news that March 1st is the pending date for the sequester, we've been hearing the news that it will actually mean a 5.1% cut possibly, which is a mid-year cut to all federal and defense programs. That would certainly impact the CDBG program for this current year. We're projecting about a $99,000 funding cut for this program year, which is currently halfway through the year. That will make some significant cuts in the public social services, administration, and probably capital improvement programs. This has not been approved yet. It's still pending March 1st. If it does go through, then the Office of Management Budget, which the Federal Budget Office would notify us on April the 1st to give us direction on how we would address this. Again, it's so up in the air that we really are just being prepared for it, but we don't know for sure if it's going to happen, if it's going to be a 5.1, a 3.5, or the original 8.1%. But this impacts certainly the block grant program, our homeless assistance program, our Section 8 program, all of our housing activities, other federal programs on the community like the Head Start programs, the meals programs, the education programs. So it is a certainly significant impact to the community.
Are you talking about currently funded projects?
Yes, currently funded projects.
So these are projects that the federal government committed to, we allotted through CDBG. It can actually, if this does go through, which hopefully won't, and all these organizations are going to get cut, no matter what, even though it was committed.
Mr. Olivares, again, we don't know how the mechanism will work from HUD. We would have to see where other funds may be available, or we can utilize unappropriated funds, may take funds from next year. We'd have to wait and see what the mechanism yet. We don't know if we would cut everybody across the board, because some agencies already spent their money, have been allocated contracts, so we're hoping there'll be some flexibility in that area for us to look at those cuts in a different way than we usually do.
I have a question here. We're approving the funding today. Now, in the interim, after we approve this funding today, if it is modified, then the committee has to come back again with a new figure and revise those figures that we had approved then?
I think what we're talking about is the issue is funding for the current fiscal year. So what the federal government is going to cut are the funds that have already been allocated or should be allocated for current programs. It's not forward-looking towards next year.
Okay.
Which is probably worse for the obvious reasons.
That clarifies it, yeah. Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you.
Item 4, item 3D.
Item 3C is receive report regarding financial statements for community organizations.
Okay. I wanted to set up the protocol here. Frank.
Mr. Chair,
we
do have a report on members of the committee. One of the new requirements that we have for the nonprofits is to provide us their financial statements or audited financial statements as required by council a couple of years ago and approved by the committee. This allows us to make sure that we are funding organizations that are financially capable of administering the CDBG programs and sustaining themselves. So we've actually have our internal auditors provide us some assistance with analyzing the nonprofit financial statements for 2 years and looking at their ratios, looking at their funding levels, and any questionable items they would be able to assist us with. And Michelle Flynn from Internal Audit will just give us a quick summary on what they provided on this. We do have those in the packets on the last page of each proposal. They're all in there. And if you have questions on those or how we calculate, please let Michelle know. So I'll pass it on to Michelle.
Good morning. Thank you, Moises. As Moises indicated, I am the city auditor. My name is Michelle Flynn. Let me first start off by acknowledging my staff who worked on this project, Eileen Donahue and Naira Akopian. They did a fabulous job putting together the financial ratios for the 15 agencies that you have in your packets. You probably have 13 today. I think you have 2 more for next week on the capital projects. I'd like to thank both of them for their hard work and their dedication to getting this to you in a timely manner. And it was about a year ago that we were here for the first time, and if you recall, that was as a result of the new guidelines that City Council had passed back in 2011, and Internal Audit was asked to provide this committee with a consistent and objective mechanism by which you can all evaluate the applicants that are requesting CDBG funding from the City of Glendale. So that mechanism basically became the calculation of the financial ratios that you have in your packets, and Internal Audit worked alongside with Community Services and Park staff to develop 6 financial ratios, and we use those same ratios this year as well as we did last year. The 6 include, I'll just run through them. You have a brief description in your packet, and I'll just quickly cover them for you. The functional cost allocation, which represents a percentage of the funds that are expended on non-program related expenses such as general and administrative costs. Current ratio is an indicator that basically will tell you what the organization's ability is to pay short-term obligations in a short period of time, which would be 12 months or less. The debt ratio represents a proportion of the debt that the organization has relative to its assets. The defensive ratio reflects the number of months that an organization could operate if no additional funding was received. Reliance on source income provides you with the potential risk that if the elimination of their highest source of contributed income were to go away. And the last one is the funding efficiency, which represents the average dollar amount of contributions that are spent for every dollar, the average dollar amount of contributions raised for every dollar spent on fundraising. It's important for me to let you know that any one of these ratios taken by themselves is not particularly a fair representation, that you should look at them as a whole for the whole organization. And it's also important for me to let you know that internal audit is not expressing any opinions with regards to the financial health of any of the organizations. We've recalculated the ratios for you based on the financial statements provided. The majority of the financials that we received were audited by an independent accountant. Those numbers were verified through their tests of procedures that they would have to do in order to issue those financials. And we also didn't go through any other additional tests of those numbers. We simply used the numbers that were provided to us. So I hope that provides you a brief summary of what we've done. I'm happy to help answer any questions you may have. We'll be watching the meeting the majority of the day today, so we'll be available at our desks if need be.
You did too good a job, so no questions.
I have a couple of
You
questions.
want to? Okay.
Just general questions.
Sure.
The independent accountant, who is that?
Each agency would hire their own
Okay, so this is
independent
it.
accountant.
Okay, and so they pay for that on their own?
Yes,
You take their information and then you analyze it and
correct.
provide your report. Of all the agencies that you reviewed, which we have in front of us, were there any that require you going back and questioning any information from your independent accountants?
No, it really wouldn't be our place to do that. We would have to perform our own financial audit in order for me to question any of their numbers.
So the process basically requires you to take that information as believable and then do your own do the reporting to us.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Item 3D, review proposal evaluation process and interview and deliberation protocol.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted, I think we had some earlier discussions on how the committee had thought about processing or reviewing the protocol. And if you remember, we mentioned, we did tell the agencies that we would provide them 5 minutes time to present their proposal and then followed by questions. That's what we had discussed earlier, and we had given them that notification. But obviously, the committee certainly can make however adjustments and changes that they wish.
Okay, I just wanted to highlight what Mr. Carrillo mentioned. If there's anything that's not in the packet that you submitted, then we'd like to hear from you. Otherwise, pretty much we have everything here, and it's just the outside ends, or if you have any guests or people of that nature that you'd like to have up with you, that's fine, but I'd just like to have you try to highlight anything that's not in the packets so that we can be up to date on that and have a full assessment when we start to allocate the funding process. And with that, let's begin with Door of Hope and Mr. Peters.
Chair Cornell, if I could please read into the record the next item. Item 4, action items. At A, conduct interviews with social service applicants and deliberate and approve funding recommendations.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm going to invite Sherry Timer to join me as well. She's my program director, and she'll be sharing a little bit as well, but we will keep this brief. Well, good morning. It's great to be with you and be the first person up here, and thank you for your partnership. You don't know how much it means to us, because our success of what we do is a direct result of what you have allowed us to be able to accomplish. As you know, the Door of Hope is a nonprofit, been in existence for over 27 years, and our mission is to equip homeless families to rebuild their lives with the goal of breaking the cycle of homelessness permanently. Our transitional housing program at Hamilton Court here in Glendale serves up to 13 families and 27 children at a time. That's 40 individuals. It includes intensive case management, counseling, child care, a comprehensive after-school program, employment, services, referrals, life skills classes, and an array of other services with the goal of helping them transition into permanent housing. As you probably have noted, the homeless count for 2012 included 299 homeless individuals, and of those, 79 were children under the age of 17. 134 indicated that they were members of households of families, and 32 women and children were homeless as a result of domestic violence. We were part of a whole continuum of care and a critical part that serves specifically homeless women and children, many of which are homeless as a result of domestic violence. Over the last few years, we've had a significant impact right here in Glendale. In 2011, serving 85 people, that's 28 families and 57 children. In 2012, we served 83 people. With 27 families and 56 children. And in the last 6 months, we've already served 62 people. That includes 20 families and 42 children. Our comprehensive after-school program is really the focus of what we're requesting funding for this year. It's Monday through Friday for the children after school. We walk the children back. We give them a healthy snack. We have recreation time. We have life skills classes, arts and crafts, computer time, one-on-one homework and tutoring, and mentors that work with the children and help them in their day-to-day lives. In the last year, we've served a multicultural diversity of Latino, Armenian, Japanese, Alaskan Indian, African American, white, and many others. Today, I would like to have had somebody come and share personally, but because of the nature of the domestic violence, which most of our families have experienced, we weren't able to have somebody come today. But I've asked Sherry Timer, our program director, just to share briefly some of the stories of some of the children, just a snapshot.
Thank you and good morning. It is really important what you're doing. It really does make a difference when you think about the families. When domestic violence happens, oftentimes they go to an emergency shelter, so they're away from their school, away from their surroundings where they grew up, because we want them safe. Then 30 days later or 45 days later, they get transferred to another location. So they've moved from school to school, from situation to situation, and stability is really critical. We've had kindergartners that have been to more than one kindergarten classroom, and they enter to a school here in Glendale, and they're told that they're going to be expelled. We have staff that will go every day, sit in the classroom, meet with the teachers, meet with the families, meet with the classroom teacher, and go daily for weeks just to stabilize the family, just to stabilize the child. They may stay for an hour, they may stay at the most critical time, but we'll come alongside and we'll do whatever it takes to make these children successful. This past year we had one family came in and 3 girls. The youngest girl wouldn't speak a word, even in our after-school program. After a few weeks she was smiling, and then she was asking questions. At the first parent-teachers conference after the first quarter, the teacher said she had not been able to get the child to speak one word in the classroom. Again, we come alongside, we go to the classroom, we work with the teachers, we work with the families, we help the children to become healed inside as well, because domestic violence doesn't always just affect the moms, it affects the kids too. We've had families this recently come in, and the only clothes that they had were the ones that they were wearing. You know, we'll get them clothes, we'll get them supplies. The little girl asked me, is my bed going to have sheets on it?
It makes a difference. It makes a difference. These kids are hurting. One little girl, and I think Tim's going to share about her. Her mother can't read. She couldn't even write her name, her daughter's name. We had to help her with intake forms. Now she's writing. She's filling out applications. She's with Department of Rehab. She's in literacy classes. The daughter no longer has to be the parent. She can be the daughter. She was coming from a place, they stayed in the back of a garage in a storeroom with no shelter, no bed, no heat, no bathroom. These kids are coming from unimaginable places. Some kids have seen their dads or their significant others try and kill their moms. They've had to call 911. They come here. We have 2 teenagers right now who have graduated from the program. They've left. They're in permanent housing. They're coming back to serve in our after-school program. To me, that says a lot. It says that they're wanting to make a difference in other kids' lives. And it's an important program, and we thank you. We thank you for what you're doing, because it really has helped.
Sure. Well, in closing, I just want to emphasize that these are just a few of the stories of hundreds, as you can see the numbers that I gave you, hundreds of families and children. And so many shelters and so many places work with families and children, but we really focus on the whole family, including the children. You forget that the children are homeless too. Please look at our complete packet. You'll see we're amazing in our financial matrix and our funding efficiencies. We leverage every dollar. We stretch it. Our whole program costs $340,000, and we're asking just for a small portion of that, and every dollar makes a significant difference. We have an excellent expenditure rate. In the first 5 months, we've spent around 60% of our current funding budget. Your decision to fund us today isn't just a funding to fund a staff salary or a program expense, but it's an investment in our future, in our children's lives. Our success is a direct result of your partnership, and so we thank you for your partnership. I know how hard it is. You have so little funds and so many needs and so many different decisions to make today, but we really appreciate every dollar that you're able to give. We really, really appreciate it. We'll do our very best with it, and I've given you a brochure and a newsletter. In the newsletter is a poem written by that 10-year-old girl that Sherry shared briefly about her home situation. I encourage you to read that poem. It's very touching. She wrote that and wanted to share that with you. On behalf of all of our children and families at Dorff Hope, I just want to thank you and answer any questions that you might have.
Yes?
Just a couple of questions, and thank you for the presentation. What's the average stay of a family?
It averages probably about 9 to 12 months. The maximum stay is supposed to be 12 months. We're really about individualized plans for every family. Some families come with extreme crisis and takes at least 12 months or more. There's some families we've had transition into permanent housing. We've had a mom buy a house within a couple months of the program, moving it back with her family. Every family varies. We try to put them through as quickly as possible into permanent housing without jeopardizing the quality to make sure that they're ready.
And of all the cases you see, and I don't need an exact figure, but how many would you say are foreign illegal immigrants?
Very few. A majority of our families are right here from Glendale, and so we focus, the priority goes to Glendale residents, and we actually, I don't believe that we have one family where the domestic violence was the issue that caused the homelessness, and she was not from our
Okay, thank you. You guys are doing, we know the work you do.
Yeah. Good question.
Hi. Thanks for the great presentation. So I understand correctly that 57% of the people that you serve are Glendale residents, right?
That was in the last report. Those were actual residents. If you count ties to our program, it was actually over 60%.
And ties to Glendale, that's the definition that you have there. Previous residents receive services or work in Glendale. How many of that, I mean, really, you're very close to 60% anyway. I don't think it ultimately matters. But when you say received services, so are of the 14%, most of them in the category of having received services in Glendale, or being previous residents or working in Glendale?
I think working.
As far as ties?
The ties.
As far as ties, I just want to,
Ties.
it's sort of a vague concept. I just
Some
wanna-
have lived here before, some were born here, some have gone to college here, some have had their children here, so it actually varies.
Let's see. I don't have any more questions.
Okay. Mr. Peter Sherry, you thanked us. Let us in turn thank you for your 27 years of dedicated service to the community. And for that, you can see where we are, much better off. So thank you both.
Thank you.
And before our next, we need to fill out the evaluation form, so we have that handy. And our next speaker is JHK and Sharon Townsend.
Morning. Hey.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Sharon. Nice to have you back.
Thank you very much. My name is Sharon Townsend Roth, and I'm the new executive director at Glendale Healthy Kids, though I've been in Glendale since 1968, graduated from Glendale High School. Our project goal, Glendale Healthy Kids, proposes to expand and bring additional mental health services to the children and the students in the Glendale Unified School District and community, particularly low-income, underinsured children in the service area. The purpose of the project is to have children live a stable, balanced, and independent life so they can fully participate in their communities with minimal outside assistance. The objective is to identify students with behavioral needs who are on the edge of normal behavior and lacking a strong support system. You as government managers are stewards of public assets. You have an important role to play in helping the government discover what could be done with the assets entrusted to your office, as well as ensuring responsive services to our citizens. The community need, in December, 2 days before Sandy Hook, I was personally contacted by the superintendent of schools, Dr. Sheehan, and Lyndall Burleson, who is the director of their health services and with me here today, asking Glendale Healthy Kids to provide access for mental health services for their students. There's been a significant increase of suicide contagion, especially at CV and Rosemont, of students being put on mental health holds. Overall, within the district, more than 20 cases a month are being reported. Though Diddy Hirsch offers mental health services for children and families in the area, Glendale Healthy Kids is unique in that we have a strong, viable, and nearly a 20-year partnership with Glendale Unified School District. Their assistant superintendent, Kathy Fendukian, and Linda here sits on our board of directors. There's been a partnership of trust and knowledge that we will provide immediate service for their students. We can work through the red tape and the network, and that makes us unique and stand ahead of other organizations. Measuring performance in mental health is different than measuring performance in private enterprises. The difference can be measured in degrees, not leaps. You can see a broken arm in a cast. You can see a tooth whose cavity is filled, but mental health healing is often blind to the eye. But our program outcomes will include baseline data, statistical tracking of student-provider referral matches, services implemented, impact and outcomes of the service, and post-reporting by mental health providers, Glendale Unified staff, and GHK staff. A minimum of 30 mental health providers will be added to our network. Appointments will be coordinated and scheduled by Joanne Parnell. Our full-time case manager is also here with us today. We anticipate servicing at least 80 children and students, though we're mindful that this number is on the increase, and Linda will share these numbers for you in a bit. We will provide them with a prescribed number of counseling sessions to help get through the difficult time, and students in need of these services will be identified by school nurses, teachers, and school officials. The community-wide needs assessments in 1993 identified that uninsured children of the working poor were unable to see physicians and specialists, which seriously limited preventative care and routine health maintenance. These families do not qualify for Medi-Cal. They don't have insurance through work. The City of Glendale, Glendale Unified School District, and the 3 local hospitals came together with local community leaders, and Glendale Healthy Kids was formed. During the past 19 years, we've continued that strong collaboration with the school district, the city, and the hospitals. Los Candelas has supported us for more than 10 years with mental health grants, and we have coordinated mental health referrals from the YWCA Salvation Army in Ascensia. We continue to seek input and collaboration from community agencies, churches, civic groups, and individuals with additional links to other services. In the City of Glendale's plan for 2010 through 2015, it identified youth and family counseling programs and the coordination and leverage of health education, case management, and treatment as a high priority in its social service program strategies. The high priority of social service needs highlighted the fact that many residents cannot afford mental health care and no public county clinics are operated in this area. The plan also stated priority of assisting nonprofits to serve 5,000 very low and low-income persons with health services and a priority of use for federal funds in health and mental health services. We know that household income is an important consideration when evaluating the community development needs because a low income typically constrains a person's ability to access services. According to the Department of Mental Health, the best treatment for mental services today are highly effective, and between 70 and 80% of individuals has significant reductions of symptoms and improved quality of life. The U.S. Surgeon General also reports that 10% of children and adolescents in the United States suffer from serious emotional and mental disorders. 1/2 of all lifetime cases of mental health illness begin by the age of 14, and less than 1/2 of children with a diagnosable mental disorder receive mental health services in a given year. The latest statistics by the Census Bureau in September in Glendale was reported that the median household income in Glendale fell 15%, and about 22% of Glendale residents have no health insurance, compared with 15% nationally. Our physical location at the YWCA in Lexington, which we moved to in September, we are able to outreach families of children and students. We've partnered with Diddy Hirsch, the Foothill Family Services, Glendale Adventist Medical Center, and healthcare professionals. Foothill Family Services has agreed to hold group counseling sessions on location at Glendale Healthy Kids, and all students are within the Glendale Unified School District boundaries. I'd like right now for Linda to share some numbers from the school district.
Okay, just to give you an idea, mental health services are provided through the school district by a wide variety of agencies, some of which was already mentioned. We have approximately, currently, just to give you an idea, 288 students who receive mental health services through our special needs population. These are children who have such severe behavioral issues that they qualify for the special education program. We're not talking about those students here because they are getting access through another program. The Diddy Hirsch provides programs on alcohol and drug abuse. They also provide programs for students of a particular ethnic background. The program that we're talking about with Glendale Healthy Kids is one that will provide services to all groups who don't qualify for any of these other organizations. And as Sharon was mentioning, we are seeing a huge increase in the number of children who qualify for free and reduced lunches. And this just gives you an added idea of how much there is of a decrease in the numbers of the amount of income that families have. And I just want to mention also, I sent an email to all of our principals to get an idea of what the needs were in their schools over and above all the other programs that we have. And from each principal, there wasn't one school that didn't have a minimum of 10 children right now that they would recommend for counseling, for mental health counseling, because their families have lost funding, they've lost jobs, they have divorces, they're on the edge, and when families are not doing well, they can't support their children. We want to help these children before they get to the point where they're thinking about suicide, as happened recently at CV. And we all know that whenever there is a suicide that happens anywhere, the numbers of other people who were on the edge and are thinking about it increases greatly. So that's what we're trying to prevent. We already have a relationship with Glendale Healthy Kids. We call them now for these services, and all they can say is, well, we'll look around and help you try to find services. So they are the perfect program for us because we already have the referral network. Any questions? Thank you.
When I initially filled out this grant application, it was for another project for our general services, and then Dick Sheehan had come to me on December the 12th. Sandy Hook happened on December 14th, and was just passionate in his request to me, and it just put an angst in my heart. And the very next day I contacted Foothill Family Services, Department of Mental Health, and some other organizations. And then, of course, on Friday the 14th of December, Sandy Hook happened, and now incidences have spiked all over the United States with children having issues. And part of the issue is there's more reporting. It's just not necessarily there's more cases, there's more reporting of the cases. But I just have a hole in my heart. I have to tell you, I do lose sleep over this, because at Glendale Healthy Kids and for myself, it's all about the children. At the end of the day, no matter what, we have to help the children. You're being asked to pursue the good and right and to do so with respect to the principles of democratic governance. You're being asked to heed the call, listen, and to respond to the initiatives of myself and others and learn how to deliberate together as well as exchange goods and services. All of this creates public value that's more reliable, more able, and more respectful. I thank you for your services, and I ask that you consider our proposal. Thank you.
Any follow-up?
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
What's the average age of your kids, of the kids you deal with?
Anywhere from 5 to 22, a lot of high school students, mostly middle and high school students. But we get children at all ages who are having family issues. Force doesn't care how old the kids are.
Of all those kids, how many what percentage would be single-family homes, single-parent homes?
Oh, gosh, I would venture a guess, but it's probably 75%, 80 maybe.
Great, thank you.
I really wish there was a letter from Dick Sheehan, because that would have been helpful, since it's it seems to be highlighted as his appeal to your group for help is highlighted in terms of the community need for the services.
We brought Linda here with us today because Dick and Kathy couldn't be here.
Okay.
So she's representing the school district.
I appreciate
And
that.
we can certainly get a letter if that would be helpful, because he is behind this 100%.
Okay. And one of the themes that I heard was that this program, as opposed to others that provide mental health services or similar mental health services, provides services to all groups. So the other groups that are functioning in the city somehow are ethnically specific or linguistically specific. There are no other groups that do the same kind of thing and it's open for everyone. I mean, that's a little troubling to me, honestly.
Well, for example, there are, Dee Hirsch provides alcohol and drug programs, and I believe those are open to anyone. They have a program called Armunity that provides mental health services specifically to students, children, families of Armenian descent. There are other groups that provide, I don't know all of the groups that provide specifically to their specific needs. I don't know of any that provide specifically to Hispanic or other. The one thing I do know is that when Glendale Healthy Kids provides services, it's for all.
Okay. One thing that we failed to talk about with Door of Hope, and we usually do during these deliberations, is just stress once again, so that there are no surprises at the end of the day, the fact that the money is what it is. I mean, the amounts that are available
We understand.
are what they are. And you know how tiny the fund is. So odds are that the allocation will not be at 100% of what's being requested. I'm probably being very generous when I say that right now. How will the fact that you're not going to get all $40,146 that you're requesting impact your ability to function and deliver the services?
We have to find a need to meet this need for the community. Part of my, a big part of my job is being continually out in the community, raising funds, holding events. We have an incredible board of directors that is out in the community networking for us, trying to find funds and doing a lot of grant writing. But we have to meet this need. We will appreciate anything you can do, but I personally need to meet this need for our children.
Okay, and thank you for that candid answer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sherry, I have a question along the same line here. I guess your board of directors approved your expanding your portfolio into this because previously, to this point, you haven't done it. But looking through the packet here, is GUSD out of the picture now, and this is why you're coming in?
No, they're not out of the picture. We moved to a different location because we needed a bigger location and they needed our space, but we are 100% partners with them. We provide services for their children on a continual day basis.
Okay, so they're still in the picture.
Oh, absolutely.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that's never changed.
Okay.
And can I add to that? Glendale Healthy Kids has provided mental health services in the past because their whole goal and mission is to provide services to connect children with healthcare providers, be they medical or mental health. We, as school nurses, the teachers, principals, everyone, calls them when we have a child who doesn't fit into any other program and we ask for help with mental health services. They will often find someone who volunteers, and they have been doing that for the past 10 years. They'll get someone to volunteer. But because with mental health, you don't just go to the doctor once and get something fixed. It's a long-term counseling program. You have to see somebody for at least 10 sessions, 10 weeks before you can really start to work on it. So they have fewer providers, mental health providers, who can offer services for free. This is one of the reasons that this is a big issue and would be very helpful to them to have other providers who we could pay something to.
Yeah, I just pretty much along that same line. I just want to be sure there's no duplication, and I can see that the other programs that you mentioned, like Dee Dee Hirsch and so on, are more geared towards adults than for the kids. Right. So, with that, I want to thank you both, and nice to have you back.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your service. Thank you.
Good luck on your decisions.
Yeah, evaluation forms. Okay. And our next speaker is for the zone after Salvation Army, and Captain Ray. Nice to have you, Captain.
Thank you guys for having me. I don't always tell this story, but I think it is important today since so many of my colleagues and I have come here today to represent the youth of our community. I grew up as a child in poverty. I know what it is like not to have dinner at night. My family was homeless for a number of years. We lived in tents in the back of cars. We lived on people's couches. We lived years without electricity and those type of basic needs. And that has created a passion in my own heart to want to reach out to children and to people who are in need. The Salvation Army has been in Glendale since 1925, which amazes me because Glendale was not a huge community in 1925, but the Salvation Army was here. Right now, the Glendale Corps, the Salvation Army, has the Safe Place program, which is a hotline for kids. It has a food pantry that serves over 1,000 people a month with food. It has the Nancy Painter Home, a transitional home for moms and their kids. Chester Village, which is permanent supportive housing for homeless families, a Meals on Wheels program, and of course the Zone after-school program. I'm here today to talk to you about the Zone after-school program, which is a passion of mine. It's a passion because many of our programs reach out and they help the symptoms of poverty. If someone's hungry, we give them food. If someone's utilities are turned off, we help them with utilities. It helps with the symptoms of poverty, but I believe the Zone After School program breaks the chains of poverty. And it does that by giving kids a chance to succeed, to give kids a chance to have a better life, to break the cycle of poverty in their own life. The Zone After School program has about 40 kids a day. It has 60 on its rolls right now, but it has about 40 kids on an average daily basis that comes in, gets after school help. 90% of those kids live below the federal poverty line. So it's reaching out to kids that are in poverty. 30% of them are homeless. They're in either Door of Hope, well, not Door of Hope, they have their own program, but Essentia, YWCA, our own Nancy Painter home. So they're kids that are in shelters that we pick up with the Sparks After School program. We give these kids homework help. We give them literacy help. We give these kids a chance to succeed. Now, I know we have 5 minutes, and I don't know when that starts or stops, but I just wanted to share a couple brief stories with you guys so you would know. There's one girl, and 4 years ago when I was here in front of you for the first time in my stay in Glendale, I talked about Kimberly, who went through the Zone After School program. And Kimberly came in, and she was a D student. She came in, we asked her what she wanted to be when she grew up, and she said, I'm just going to work at McDonald's like everybody else. She had no dreams, she had no aspirations to do anything big with her life. And Kimberly started to do better as she learned that people cared for her. And Kimberly was able to break that cycle. She became an A student, and she said, I couldn't care about myself until I knew that others cared for me. And the Zone was a big part of that. She graduated from the Zone 3 years ago, 8th grade. She stopped coming. She went to high school. She's now a senior in high school. And she came to me just, last week. And she said, Captain, I've been accepted to 2 colleges. And that's the type of work that the Zone does. All of a sudden, this girl that had no dreams, that had no hopes of what the future is, she has dreams, she has hope, and her life will be forever changed. And you, my friends, are part of that because of the support that you have given the Zone in the years past. And I thank you for that. The Zone continues to offer healthy snacks and meals to the kids. I could go on, but I also want to give you a chance to ask questions as well. Thank you guys for your support and your time today.
Any questions for the captain?
Just a couple of comments. We've been to your place. I have felt it, and you telling the story today brings back some memories because I came to this country pretty much the same way. And what you're saying is exactly right. Until somebody shows some interest on a young kid, then it translates really to what I am today. So you guys have a great program. You do. And I thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
No questions. Good job, Captain Ray. Keep it up.
Oh, Captain, I think part of the success stories that you just elaborated on come back to the core of the foundation of your organization, and as well as the staff and the leadership that you provide. So I think you have to look at yourself to some extent for that accolade. But you do a good job. We're always happy to see you, and we'll do the best we can.
I understand. I thank you guys for your time, and I know it's a difficult decision, but I believe that good men have been put in charge of that decision, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Evaluation form certificate.
So how are we doing time? Wow, Gary, you're right on time.
Okay.
And Captain Ray said good men and a good woman too. I want to make sure.
Actually,
our own Rumela Markarian is not here for very excusable.
We don't want to correct the captain on that.
Right. Well.
No, but I think it should be acknowledged that it's not just the three of us.
Exactly. It's not just the three of us. That's what I was saying, that it's not just the three of us.
I'm glad you made that point.
We do miss her because she does.
Right, and she has a tragedy in the family, and she has a death in the family. That's why she's not here. So. Our condolences to her.
Okay, our next speaker is the after-school,
We're on number 4.
excuse me, the Glendale Family Housing Ventures. And
My name is Gabrielle Waring. Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
good morning, and nice to have you.
Thank you. Nice to see you all again. This is the third year, so. So the project that we are proposing, first, I do want to make one correction. Our proposal is actually for $9,900, not $47,000, as is on the agenda.
Just, Mr. Chair, there was a agenda out there that we had an older
Okay.
amount there, so, yeah, I knew you're the only one that had that. They had the correct amount.
Stay clear.
Yes, I knew that was going to come up.
That helps.
I didn't get your name. Are you?
Gabrielle Waring.
Fine, yeah, okay.
I actually am the Program and Services Coordinator for the Scattered Site Program for Path Ventures in Glendale for individuals.
Right.
We've been operating that program for over 6 years now. So the program that we're proposing is actually influenced by the captain's story, which I found very moving. So currently in Glendale, there are a few programs that work with transitional housing at Essentia and Salvation Army, and one at Salvation Army that houses four families. So we have seen the need, and in collaboration with the City of Glendale and funding that was available, we applied from HUD for a program to serve families. I think there's a great need in the community for a family housing program, and this program would work. So the population that we're aiming to serve is homeless families in need of support to end the cycle of homelessness and lead productive lives. The programs currently that are in the community of Glendale are Chester Village, which offers 4 units to serve families. Traditional housing is offered through Essentia and Salvation Army as well. And some families do have access to traditional Section 8 housing. The families that we're aiming to serve are the families that continue to go in the cycle of homelessness that need more support in getting back on their feet. The program aims to serve families with high needs that have low income. We're aiming to serve the families that have minimal income through either CalWorks or GR or very basic benefits, and would identify families with the City of Glendale who need our services. Your funding will allow us to serve those families regardless of financial situations and not worry about having to look for other financial sources to support our grant. In turn, that would allow us to serve the most needy families in the community of Glendale. Path Ventures has been working with the Glendale community for over 6 years. We've operated a supportive housing program for individuals. That program serves annually about 14 to 15 individuals. We work with those individuals to keep their housing, get back on their feet, increase their income and employment, and also access services that they need like mental health. And that is, does anybody have any questions? I'm sorry.
I have some questions. I'll ask some questions. So can you talk a little bit about Glendale Homeless Continuum of Care? What is that, a set of guidelines, or who promulgates those?
The Glendale Homeless Continuum of Care is basically a group of agencies in the City of Glendale that work to address the needs of the homeless population in Glendale.
Okay, and so they set up sort of an agenda or a
We
set
set
of
up
needs?
yes.
Okay. And there was a comment with the identified weakness in the packet, and I'm referring to the second one regarding no other programs offering supportive permanent housing for homeless families. Can you explain what scattered housing is? I'm a little still shaky on that concept.
I understand that. Many people are. So what we were talking about is currently in the City of Glendale, there are traditional programs for homeless families, and the Salvation Army has one limited program that offers homes for families who need permanent housing, as long as they have an adult with a disability. Scattered site housing is a great option for the City of Glendale because, number one, you don't have to build any housing, and it occupies units that are already available in the community. So what our agency has done for the past 6 years is we've worked with landlords in the community to rent units from them to provide housing for individuals. So basically, we're asking to do that same process, except serve the families in need.
Okay, but the end result seems like is the same. It just provides housing for...
Yes.
Okay. And One of the weaknesses was identified as city staff not being happy with sufficient identification of program participants being defined. Could you address that issue?
The program participants would be those referred from the shelters, it's like Ascensia, or those who are identified at Salvation Army as needing a higher level of care. So what we're aiming to do is to serve the families who are exiting traditional programs, who have been homeless for a long amount of time, who actually need more long-term supportive services to keep homelessness, to increase their income, and to basically give their families a fresh start at a better life. So we would work with members of the continuum of care to identify the actual participants that most need that service.
Okay. And I have some questions regarding this to staff, but I believe we don't discuss that until the actual deliberation process. Is that correct?
Is it in regards to this particular program?
Yes, in regards to this. So can I ask you questions? Well, one major one was the last weakness, which in staff comments was indicated as possibly basis for deeming the entire application packet unacceptable. Now, I know that they've rectified it in terms of having provided board meeting minutes and approval. Is staff satisfied with that? Is that a non-issue at this point?
Yes. Yes, Mr. Sinani, we do have the documents requested from Path Ventures.
And there were a couple more like that, which seems to have been rectified. I just want to make sure there's nothing in this packet that in any way.
Yes, Mr. Sinani, members of the committee, we did note to really make sure the agencies understand that this is a very serious item to miss, so that we really get documents in there. So you'll note that, and you'll see that in a number of them that there were some missing documents. So we did receive them, but to make sure that they're in next time.
Okay. Thank you. And that's all the questions I had.
I have a couple of questions. And first question is, you're not asking for a lot of money.
No.
$9,900. Seems like this is a lot of work.
Yes.
$9,900. But what happens if you didn't get $9,900?
Well, the other funding source for this program is coming from HUD, which we applied for with the City of Glendale, and we'll receive active confirmation on that by the end of the month. If we didn't, we would have to look for other fundraising opportunities. The reason this amount is so small, because it's just in support of the grant, but also that small amount offers us the availability to serve the families that are in most need and have the lowest financial income without worry of having to find other matching funds to serve those families.
Okay. And then my other question is more in terms of what you do.
Yes.
So if you're searching for apartments or locations throughout the city where you're going to place a family that's obviously having issues, how do you deal with the stigma of placing a family in an apartment building, for example, where people are earning money and doing well, and now they're being placed there? Is that an issue?
Sometimes it is. Normally, we have developed a lot of good relationships with landlords throughout the community. Our program has been around for over 6 years now. So my work this year is basically to increase that awareness and let people know what we do. But I also think that a lot of participants and individuals in this community also receive Section 8, so there's still a stigma there. So most landlords that will willing to accept Section 8 accept our program because we actually do offer a better deal for them and more supportive services to our families.
Great, thank you.
Gary, I have one follow-up question for staff, if I may. Now, in the past, the issue of administering these programs in terms of the cost that's associated with it to staff has been an issue. I don't know if I explained that correctly. So what's happened is that you said sometimes when the fund is so small, it makes no sense for staff to expend for the city to really expend the expense to actually administer the fund. Any comment on that with respect to the $9,000 request?
Well, Mr. Sinani and members of the committee, we had spoken with the committee about the funding amount that would make the program efficient and operate correctly. And this is a little different. They're asking for an amount that's comfortable with, that staff would be comfortable with. The difference being if it's a $45,000 request and you give them $9,000 or $5,000, it's not very effective. But we do want to make sure we don't necessarily also provide those small grants because they are more burdensome as well as a larger grant to provide funding So I think it's also related to the percentage of funds that are given, I mean, a comfortable amount, but a big significant cut to a larger program to this amount would be more challenging for staff.
Okay. No more questions from me.
I think in the past we've had, Mr. Carrillo, I believe the threshold figure was somewhere around 10,000, around about that, because we have a lot of that right here. Rosie Goes to Wall Street is one here, too, that's in that ball field. So the point is, as long as it's well-funded and for the purpose of this, and it's going to be well-appropriated and the benefit of use. That's the bottom line. So.
And just, I think for $9,000, you're receiving a great service to the community. So.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you for participating.
Thank you very much.
Look at evaluation forms. Mr. Gregorian, nice to have you here.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And
Should I
please
start?
proceed.
My name is Armand Gregorian, and I'm from Homanetman Glendale chapter. The proposal is for after-school tutoring. We've done this program very successfully for the past 3-4 years, and because of its success, we have applied for the program again. If we are approved and for the amount of budget that we have proposed, we will be able to serve approximately 170 kids from Glendale Unified School District, most of them from South Glendale. And the survey that we have done in the past, verbal survey that we have done in the past with the parents, they have been very happy and satisfied with the help that we're giving to their children. Again, the people that their first language is not English, they have problem at the school, and we get a lot of Armenians, Hispanics, and recently Koreans in our program that they benefit from this program. We work on their math classes, and we also work on their English. Every year, beginning of the program, we do a test to evaluate what their strength, and at the end of the program, we repeat that test so that we can measure their success and how much they have improved in those classes. I'm open to questions.
Any questions for Mr.
I have a question. One of the concerns expressed by, well, one of the weaknesses expressed by staff was what appeared from the initial packet that the program was too dependent on the CDBG allocation, but I understand from the correction that that's not actually the case. Would you explain that a little bit?
Well, there's a lot of expenses that we haven't written down that we pay for those expenses. The custodians, the utility, the cleaning and janitorial, and the amount of time that I spend on this project. I've never put my hours there, but with the requirements that HUD has, all the forms and follow up on the people that we are serving them, I spent probably about 20 hours per month for this project. So if I put down everything down there, it will not be only 10% of the project that we are paying for. It will be much higher than that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
If I may. It's nice to see you again, of course.
Yes, always.
No, and going along with my committee members' comments is you've been coming here for a long time representing, obviously, Homanetman.
Yes, sir.
And for me, the amount of kids that you have been serving over the years, for the money that we allocate to your program, it's a very good ratio. We've been to your place also, and it's a great place. I'm glad to hear you're getting more ethnicity groups, and I think that just goes with the territory we happen to live in. It reflects our community. So, but do you foresee any changes to the program in the future?
What kind of changes are you?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking, because over the years I've seen the program is very consistent.
Yes.
In terms of what you provide. You obviously improve your facilities, have been doing that for a long time, but the program has always been very, very basic, if you will.
It all depends on the response that we're getting from Glendale Unified School District children, because our biggest partner is the GUSD. We go to them every year, we present our project, we give them the flyers, they send it to, every Thursday they send it to, with the folders, they send it home, and the more we get, the better. The problem we've had is that we are not being funded the amount that we're requesting. If we are getting fully funded, then we will be able to serve 170. Then it will encourage us for next year to make changes, to go and spend more time with the children and serve more children. Instead of having 2 hours per day, have 3 hours per day. That will increase at least another 60, 70 people to our program. But when we don't get funded fully, then we have to go to 1 hour per day instead of 2 hours per day that we are proposing. And right now, because the two main concerns of this, the people that we're serving is English and math, we are not adding anything to those two curriculums. We're just sticking to those two programs.
Okay, thank you.
GUSD is your overriding partner, but you have minor participation from other groups as well. So has that increased from last year as far as your membership and so on and makeup?
I'm not sure if I understood the question.
The makeup of the membership, has that increased?
The makeup of the people that we are serving for this particular project?
Correct.
Well, yes, it has been increasing because we advertise in two places. We advertise internally in our ranks, in our organization, and mainly we advertise at the schools in South Glendale. Mm-hmm. When I go to Glendale Unified School District and propose this and give the flyers because of the limited number of people that we can serve, and we are located in South Glendale, and the people that we want to serve, English being their second language or new immigrants and all that, mostly live in South Glendale, so we don't even ask them to submit these flyers into North Glendale schools. We just stick to the South Glendale because we believe our program is suited better to them.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say I was on their premises a month or 2 months ago, and it caught my attention. I saw the Asian, the Korean families there, and in a sense it was because I expected more like maybe if I had seen more Latinos and Hispanics, I may have not been surprised, but I was pleasantly surprised to see the Korean presence. So.
Recently,
I'm very happy to.
We've had some African Americans, not in the tutoring program, but in our other programs. So we're getting more diversity.
Mm-hmm. But your membership has increased. Is that from the amount of students that you're serving now compared to, say, last year?
Yes.
Hasn't that been upgraded to some extent?
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Again, let me explain. When the funding is being cut, when the funding is not as much as we are proposing, then there is a limit that we can take the kids in. Our proposal last year was for 170 kids, as it is this year. But when the funding from 8,000 proposal got down to 15,000, then we were down to 75 kids. It all depends on the funding. If we get full funding, we can serve 170, 175 kids.
I recall on the basketball program, and correct me if I'm wrong, the participants paid a small fee.
The summer basketball program that I use, never.
Never? Okay.
Never, no.
Must be thinking of something else. So the participants on
Our
this...
members pay a small fee for membership at the organization. But when we have additional programs like this, when I come to your commission to ask for funding from HUD, those programs are never being paid for. I mean, all funding is either by HUD money or by organization money. We don't charge kids anything.
Anything? Okay, great. Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Gore, you want to add?
I just hope that the restrictions that you have in funding will give you enough for us to fund us fully so that we can serve more kids.
Well, we're in a little better predicament than we are last year, where we had 35%, as you well know, cut here from our funding. So I'm a little bit more cautious, optimistic here that it won't go any lower, let's say that.
Well, you can't blame me for hoping.
I'll tell you what, if we don't do very well today, I'm going to go to your organization for some free math tutoring.
I think,
or you can offer your help to us and come and be one of our tutors for free.
I think you know our track record very well, otherwise you wouldn't be back here.
I want you to understand that we're serving this many kids with very little money. I mean, where can you find tutors to pay $12 per hour and they do the tutoring? And these are people that some of them have been doing it at previous years, and they just keep doing it because they also think that is a good thing. Or the administrator, what we pay him, it's with the money that is being paid other places, what we pay them is almost nothing. So they are doing a good job for us with very little money.
After New Horizon went belly up, I think you got some overflow there from them. Has that teetered off, or do you still have that?
The first year we got some overflow from them. Now I cannot say that the names that we're getting from school, the participants that we're getting from school district, is it because New Horizon isn't there, or they just have learned about our program and they come back, so I wouldn't be able to tell you that. It was a big loss not having New Horizon in the community, but I believe other nonprofits are doing their best to fill that void.
It is, as you say, because it puts a bigger burden on the existing people like yourself here.
Yes.
So, if no further questions, Mr. Gordon, I
looking forward to serve as many as possible.
Thank you for your service for the last 35 years.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
5 minutes ahead. Before the next one, and then we have a break. And I don't see anybody in the audience.
As long as the next one is not here, I propose that we take the break at this time.
Just flip the schedule a little bit.